When I got into my research, I found out that Hacienda Country Club wasn't even the first course in Prescott, but more on that later. The Hacienda Country Club story starts in 1890, when James Clay from Escondido heads east, and he homesteads 160 acres just west of Indian Mountain. And what's today called Indian Hill. Everybody knows where Indian Mountain, Indian Hill is, right? It's where the water tank is, to the right of the toilet. Before 1900, it was called Indian Mountain, then it got demoted after 1900, so it's Indian Hill. In 1897, H.M. Hartson and his wife Mary, they purchased the property and called it the Hartson Ranch, which is what it's known as for the next 20 years. In early 1919, Leroy Anderson and a group of World War I returned vets decided that Prescott needs a private golf course to increase business, bring people from the valley up to Prescott. Let's talk a little bit about Leroy Anderson, since he's the founder of the original club. He's born September 17, 1875 in Illinois. He becomes a lawyer at 23. The same year, he enlisted in the Spanish-American War. That's 1898. After an honorable discharge, he goes back to Chicago, continues practicing law, and becomes very successful. In 1904, he marries Margaret Gale of Prescott. They never had any children. But in Prescott, he's quickly becoming known as a very good corporate lawyer. He's handling some of the larger, major companies in the Prescott area, including Consolidated Arizona Smelting, Pacific Railway, Pacific Gas and Electric, etc. In 1904, he was elected to the Arizona Territorial Legislature as a Republican, which is amazing because the district is 80% Democrat. He only serves one term, 1905 and 1907, but very importantly, he's chosen as the president of the Anti-Joint Statehood Commission in 1906. This commission is hired to go to Congress in Washington, D.C. and petition them not to bring in New Mexico Territory. Arizona Territory is one state of New Mexico, and he's successful. So as you know, 6 years later, New Mexico becomes the 47th state. 1 month to the day, Arizona's the 48th state. In 1919, he organizes the Hacienda Country Club. Also in 1919 is when his residence called the Toltec Lodge is completed. It's on High Street around Country Club. If you ever chance, you should see it. It's gorgeous. It's still a private residence, so don't knock on the door and don't bug anybody. But it oversees the courthouse square. It's just absolutely fantastic. In 1920, he gathers some of the leading civic leaders in Prescott to start building the Hacienda Hotel. It's completed in 1927 and changed the name to the Hacienda Inn. 1928, he divorces Margaret. Is this going in and out, or am I close enough to it maybe, huh? 1928, he divorces Margaret. Same year, he marries his brother-in-law, who's also his business partner's widow. Her name is Florence Gale. Very importantly, she's originally from California. In the early 1930s, his new bride finally convinces him to return to California. So he goes. In 1935, they're set up in Arcadia, California. Again, it's important to understand the condition of the course before Harvey Corey takes over. So that's why this is important. It's California bit. 1950, he's a judge in California, living comfortably, and he dies in California, July 1960, at the age of 84. Now we get back to 1919. On July 30th, Jock McLaren. Wait a minute, I think I skipped the page. Sorry.
Jump 20 years.
So as mentioned, in 1919, Leroy Anderson and World War I vets decided they want to build this golf course. So Leroy Anderson starts a campaign in the newspapers. There's several newspapers in Prescott today. Every single day there's an article in the paper about a great new golf course coming to Prescott. His favorite newspaper is the Prescott Journal-Minor, which happens to be the largest one also. He's approached by a couple of different people to join forces. One of them is the Yavapai Club, which is still around today. It's basically a camping and outdoor club. And he thinks about it and he says, no thanks. He's going to go his own way. Then he's approached by Colonel Bliss from Fort Whipple. Colonel Bliss is building a golf course at Fort Whipple. And he says to Leroy Anderson, he says, why don't we join forces? Your money, my property, blah, blah. He thinks very seriously about it, but he never does it. Then he decides on the perfect spot is the Hartson Range, which is everyone is saying is the most beautiful part of Arizona. So, in 1919, he buys 85 acres of the Hartson Ranch for $375. The deed to that sale's in the back there on the hill. He hires Jock McLaren to design the course. Jock McLaren is originally from Scotland. He actually works at the Royal and Ancient in St. Andrews. He comes through the States. He ends up going to Australia for a number of years. Comes back to the States. He gets hired to design the course. I have a lot more on Jock McLaren. Very interesting person. It took me over a year to find him. So it was very difficult. I can explain that if anyone wants to know about that later. On June 22nd, 1919, there's an article announcing that anybody who wants to join Hacienda Country Club, go to the Chamber of Commerce and see the secretary, Grace Sparks. Grace Sparks is a very famous woman in Phoenix, or Prescott. Most of you probably know her. Several buildings are named for her. I think the senior center is named after her. She actually visits the White House to represent Prescott when she visits President Harding. And they decided to put the dues together. What I thought was interesting, the lifetime membership. For $500, you can join the club, and you don't have to pay $500 is a lot of money in 1919. But with that $500, you're set for life. You don't have to pay anything else except food and beverage. What they're really going after for is the regular membership. The regular membership is a $100 initiation, and then it's $40 a year after that. They want to get 150 members. $100, 150 members, 15 grand. That's their operating capital to buy the land, build a golf course, build a clubhouse, maintain it. There's also a junior membership for people 16 to 21. No initiation, just $2.50 a month. July 23rd, Hacienda Country Club is mentioned for the first time by name. Before that, it was just a beautiful golf course in Prescott, no name. July 25th, Leroy Anderson boasts in a newspaper article that Hacienda Country Club will not only be a fine 9-hole golf course, will have a swimming pool and tennis courts. Neither are ever built during his whole tenure. So on July 30th, Jock McLaren arrives in Prescott by train. August 4th, Jock McLaren goes down to the flats. You know, that's what we call where the old course is, the flats. Spends 3 days walking all over the flats looking for the routing of the golf course. Finally, after 3 days, he has it. So finally, August 7th comes around, him and 14 laborers start going about the course. Chopping down trees, moving boulders if they can. They don't have a lot of equipment, so it's mainly line of sight. In order to push this final sales, because their goal is 150 members, they're at about 138, they put an article in the paper saying that all memberships will be cut off 6 o'clock on August 9th. After that, you can't join. And it works. People get nervous, they join. One of the last to join is Gail Gardner. Member 138 was a gentleman named J. William Ware. So we've had a Bill Ware in this course from the very beginning. He's still here. Yeah, I know. On September 27th, Leroy Anderson's business partner, Alfred Gale, you'll hear his name several times, he worked with Jock McLaren to make sure they meet the goal of a December 1st opening. That's what the goal, December 1st. They also start drilling for water at this time. Water is a never-ending story with most courses, but especially with Hacienda Country Club. As you can see from the city map that I have back there, yeah, there. It's right there. The city limits were set around the golf course. So by just a couple of feet, we were outside city limits, which means the water rates were double or triple depending on the year. Makes it cost-effective. Another reason they always have water problems. November 14th, the Prescott Journal-Miner has a big announcement. Tomorrow there's going to be an unofficial, but today we would call a soft opening. The board of members, or the board of Hacienda Country Club will be playing. No one else will be playing. But everybody's invited to come out and watch. Hundreds and hundreds of people do. Then on November 19th, the true opening of the golf course. Everybody can come and play the golf course. You don't have to be a member. Just pay your 50 cents green fees, and you can play. That goes on until December 1st. As of December 1st, it's a private club. Only members and their guests are allowed to play. The last thing that Leroy Anderson does is he convinces the Prescott City Limit to rename Crest Drive Country Club Drive. Or sorry, Crest Avenue to Country Club Drive. So, when Hacienda Country Club opens, it's the third course in Prescott to be built. The first course is called Prescott Golf Club, 1913 to 1918. South of Gurley by about 3 or 4 blocks. It's a 9-hole course, sand, oil greens, par 36, 1,982 yards. The second golf course, which I've already mentioned, is the Gunnery course in Fort Whipple. Colonel Bliss comes out and takes over his position there. He's of Scottish descent. He goes, what the hell, no golf course? So he gets with his #1 man, Captain McNabb, and they go about starting to build the Gunnery course. The Gunnery course is on the Gunnery Range, which was used from the Civil War to World War I, and it's where the Yavapai College is right now. That course was opened 4 months before Hacienda. It is 9 holes, sand oil greens, par 36, 2,809 yards, a little more meat. Interesting fact is that even though Leroy Anderson doesn't team up with Colonel Bliss to join forces, Colonel Bliss tells Leroy Anderson, he goes, listen, all your members who are joining can come and play my course for free until your course is open. Very nice gesture. Because of this, Leroy Anderson, when the course is open, he extends an honorary membership to Colonel Bliss and his wife. When Hacienda Country Club opens, it's 9 holes, sand oil greens and tees, par 37. There's only one par 3 in the course, number 4, and you can see on the blueprint back there. 2,814 yards. The first rules of the course: women, positively no high heels allowed.
Thank you.
There's no guns or shooting allowed on the golf course. Autos must park in the provided space and not drive on the golf course. Sounds like an email from Laura, doesn't it? After they received some complaints about the condition of the greens, but mostly the tees, in early December, club member Paul Murphy, founder of the Murphy's Restaurant, and his business partner again, Alfred Gale, this guy did everything. They go out about fixing mainly the tees, because the problem was they were crumbling apart. And so when you put your sand tee on there, it would just fall apart. So what they do is add a little more sand, get some heavier weighted rollers, they're fine. They work great from then on. In mid-December, the scorecards are finally ready to be used. They go out. The first golf challenge to Hacienda Country Club is asked by Clarkdale Golf Club, and they agree to a match in March. I never found out the results of that, but they did have one. So, from the early to the mid-1920s, even with primitive conditions, sand oil, tees, and greens, no fairways to speak of, Hacienda Country Club is very popular in its stripes, doing very well. The very famous Labor Day tournament starts in 1926. This tournament is the largest tournament in Arizona for years. It runs through the 60s. Everybody from all over the United States are coming to play in this tournament. I was told that in the 50s, the Calcutta got up to over $50,000. That's how big a tournament it was. Now what about those concrete yardage markers you see down below there? I mentioned earlier that they had sand, oil, greens, and tees. The fairways were nothing. If you're playing number 10 today, and you look to the left between the cart path and the condos in the distance, and you see that brown, dead, rocks and cactus area, that's what you played on. That was your fairway. They would mow down the fairways as much as they could with primitive mowers. But they had a local rule. The local rule says if you're in the fairway, you get to move your ball one club, no near the hole, and improve your lie. But you have to be in the fairway. Now you're standing in the fairway, and it's this desert scrum. You go over to the rough desert scrub. How do you know? Those concrete markers are set every 25 yards on both sides of the fairway, like a runway landing strip. So now you know you're in. Now, if you look at the 1919 blueprint I drew, you'll notice that I have the markers in there in the straight lines. That's how you know if you're in the fairway. The other things are the greens. If you look at the 1919 blueprints, the greens are round. That wasn't just for me making it easy. The greens were literally an absolute circle. What you do, put your hole in the middle here, you've got 20 yards in radius, make a total circle. You got a 40-yard diameter green. Those greens at 40 yards in diameter are approximately the same size as our greens today. Believe that. Ladies, did you look at the scorecards? If you look at the scorecards close, you'll notice something very strange and unusual. In the whole existence of Hacienda Country Club, from 1919 to 1969, there was never any ladies' tees. Ladies played the same tees as the men. But if you look at the scorecard, 1931, men's par 72, women's par 82. By 1958, men's par 72 and the women's par 78. If you look at the scorecard, you'll see the women had several par 6s. As I advised earlier, Leroy Anderson, he divorces Margaret, remarries the same year in 1928 to his business partner and brother-in-law's widow. And she's a companion from California. So Hacienda falls in difficult times during and after the Depression, and is cash strapped. Leroy Anderson's wife is bugging him. Let's go back to California. I want to go back to California. So he finally says, okay, we'll go. So he goes back, he leaves Hacienda Country Club for good, never comes back. So now we're getting to the Harvey Corey years. Harvey Corey is the gentleman in the oil painting in our historical nook we put up there. A lot of people ask me who he is because there's no name on it, Michael. If it wasn't for Harvey Corey, Hacienda Country Club in 1939 would have found the same fate as Prescott Golf Club did in 1918. It would have gone on, no doubt. Harvey Corey first comes to Prescott in 1938, looking for a better environment for his granddaughter who has asthma. He's impressed with the city. He likes what he sees. He gets a business partner of his who lives in Prescott, Rankin Roberts, to start looking for property for him. And his granddaughter's getting better. So it's a win-win-win. Roberts goes back to Harvey Corey, says, hey, there's this place called the Granite Delve. Might be a good place to buy. Harvey Corey's in Chicago at the time, thinks about it, and passes it. Let's talk a little bit about Harvey Corey, because he's truly a great, great man. Harvey Corey was born in Selma, Alabama in 1882. His father dies when he's 11 years old, so he quits school to go to work. At 18, he travels north to work for the Pittsburgh Coal Company. By the time he's 22, he's created several devices that used in the separation of coal, which until that time was a very dangerous, tedious process, usually done with child labor. He forms his own company and becomes hugely successful in the coal business. In 1906, he marries Maud Markle, better known as Moxie to everybody. She dies in 1994 in college, 108 years old. They move to Chicago, where he becomes very successful again. By the end of his career, he has over 400 patents to his name. Guy's a genius. Living in Long Beach for a few years, starting in 1915, does automotive work, doing designer accessories for autos. Again, he's very successful. And at this time, he started delving into real estate. In the 1920s, he returns to Chicago to work for the Ford Motor Company. He also owns the largest radio transmitter in the Chicago area. In the 20s, that's huge. Huge. But, big but, he makes his huge money when he develops and markets the Corey glass coffee filtration system. This thing's hugely successful. It's used in both private use and international use, or public use, whatever you want to call it. It's huge. Makes him a very wealthy man. Even with Harvey Corey's great wealth and his standing, he is still a very devout family man. This is reflected in what he does to the club when he finally takes it over. Builds a bigger clubhouse, a children's player, pools, tennis courts, you name it. Harvey Corey is heavily involved in the higher education of Northern Arizona. Because of his many donations to what then was called the Grand Canyon College, he convinces them to set up in Prescott. Grand Canyon University is going to be in Prescott. Unfortunately, after Harvey Corey's death, there's no one to carry the torch anymore. They decided to maintain in Phoenix. Harvey Corey dies in 1949 from cancer. He was an extremely heavy smoker, just so you know. So now back to the club. In early 1939, Rankin Roberts advises Harvey Corey that Hacienda Country Club's in difficult times. They may be able to be bought. This is where it gets fun. At a Hacienda Country Club board meeting, March 27th, Harvey Corey, by proxy, because at this time he's in Chicago still, he won't be back out until May, says to the board he will buy the club lock, stock, and barrel. Then his proxy goes on to mention what Harvey Corey wants to do in the next few months. He's going to agree that Hacienda Country Club retain its own corporate entity so that the current members can retain their membership for 10 years. He's going to build a new, larger clubhouse with dining rooms, banquet rooms, you name it, whole yard, 9 yards. He's going to tear down the old clubhouse. For a temporary time, they grade that, put logs down, and make it into fire pits, mainly for the children to play. Not to play in the fire, to play in it. He builds Arizona's first Olympic-sized pool. Now, we've all seen pictures of the pool. Olympic-sized may be stretching it, but it is the largest pool in Arizona at the time. He builds 2 regulation tennis courts. He builds a children's play area. He's going to change the greens from sand oil to cottonseed, which doesn't sound like much. It's a huge improvement. Unbelievable improvement. He's going to spend $3,000 annually on the upkeep of the course and for capital improvements going forward. He's going to host a number of interesting golf tournaments. He's going to hold a series of social functions, both for male, female, and family. And he's going to start an intensive membership drive to build up the membership. Everyone, and I mean everybody, members, local citizens, the Hacienda Country Club Board, all of them look at him with skepticism. There's no way this guy's going to do this stuff. In fact, they take the vote. Harvey Corey's proposal goes through by 1 vote, and he takes over the course. True to his word, just 1 week after he buys the club, ground is broken on the clubhouse. The new clubhouse they use the caddy house as a starting point. Everyone's seen the caddy house. It's in that picture that you have with the stone building, and you have Gray Davidson standing outside in his +4s. That's the caddy house at the time. He creates a new schedule of 2s. Everyone's thinking he's going to raise it. No, he doesn't. He lowers it. Makes it very affordable. It's one of the most affordable clubs around. In fact, a husband and wife membership together, $40 a year. Can't beat that. His strong support of families and children quickly endeared the whole neighborhood, the whole town. Now, besides Hacienda Country Club, he's delving into other real estate. He starts with 3 farms. I'm not going to pronounce this right. But the first farm is called the Biancani. Is that right? Bianconi. Thank you. That's in the Granite Dells area. And what he does there, he brings in Black Angus steers over from Scotland. He raises them there. He starts a farm up in Chino Valley to raise alfalfa to feed the cattle. Lastly, he starts a small dairy farm that has horses and chickens on it, just to the west side of the golf course, where Hacienda Village Lane is. He also purchased an additional 160 acres on the southwest of the golf course. Was it to build another 9 holes to make an 18-hole course? We don't know. I couldn't find anything on it. Because of all this activity in his manner, the town considered him a man of exceptional ability and of the highest integrity. That's from his obituary. He's thought of very highly in town. On May 7th, Harvey Corey holds a grand reopening. But the clubhouse, the pool, the tent, none of that stuff's done yet. But he wants to get the word out, so they have a big celebration. Starts at 11 o'clock. They have a pro-am. They bring in 2 of the best pros in Arizona from Phoenix. They come up and they have a match. Then at 3:30, the new hit pro, Art Ashton, gives a trick shot demonstration. Art Ashton, at that time, was the most famous golf trick shot artist in the world. If you went to the movies in those days, those newsreels that come on before the movies would start, he's in many of those. Very famous guy. Followed by that, there's going to be a picnic supper up at the old clubhouse, which is now the fire pits. On May 12th, Art Ashton is promoted. He is now the club pro and the general manager. This is huge, And the reason it's so huge is because part of his compensation is he gets to live in cottage number 5 when it's built, when it's completed. On June 4th, Harvey Corey's at the train depot, is going back to Chicago. He makes a big announcement. He goes, the grand opening of the new clubhouse, the pool, the tennis courts, the children's area is going to be held in conjunction with the 1939 Pioneer Days. I think you had that in one of your points, right? It will take from 1940 to 1945 to build all 14 cottages. 13 cottages around the golf course, one is just around the corner in Country Club Drive. As mentioned, cottage number 5 is for the club pro, our general manager. 8 and 9 is for the Corey family. That leaves 11 cottages. Those are rented out to members, just like today. A lot of the members live down in the valley, came up here in the summertime. So you can rent the cottage, but only if you're a family and you had children. If you have no children, you're not allowed to rent. You weren't allowed to have dogs. You could have cats. All the cottages, the clearing house, all the material to build those are local to the property. All the lumber, all the stones from the golf course. Nothing's brought in from outside. In 2003, just to go ahead a little bit, all 14 cottages are declared by the U.S. Department of the Interior a National Registry of a Historic Place. I have more on the cottages I can tell you about later, but I have a little bit later we're going to tell why they became on the Historic Registry. Very important. One of the big events that happens with the new clubhouse is in 1941, Tex Ritter, the famous movie star, marries local Prescott girl Dorothy Faye Southworth in 1941. They have a wedding reception at the club. The Southworth name is very famous in Prescott golf. I ran across it million. In fact, her father, Dr. Southworth, was the president of the board for Prescott Golf Club, 1913 to 1918. Many people come to this reception, including Barry Goldwater. Barry Goldwater is not a member of the club. His brother is. I have some very colorful stories about the Goldwater brothers, so I'll tell you at another time because it's not the proper place to do it. The club is hugely successful in the 40s and 50s. I can't tell you how many, I did hundreds of interviews with people. I can't tell you how many people that didn't play golf, but the clubhouse and the pool was the center of their universe in the summers. Everybody hung out. Very, very popular. When Harvey Corey dies in 1949, first his wife and daughter tried to run it. They quickly decided it's not their cup of tea. And it's actually run by a nonprofit for a number of years, with Jack Bartlett's input. Jack Bartlett is the grandson of Harvey Corey. I've interviewed him several times. I visited up in his place in Sedona. I invited him here for tonight. Mr. Bartlett, I'm glad you can make it. Thank you for being here. Unfortunately, we have to start talking about the downturn of the club. Unfortunately. With the construction of Antelope Hills going on in 1957, it's going to be 18 holes, grass greens, tees, fairways, everything. And with a new water supply found in 1957, Mr. Brown, I'm not sure if you're the one in it, but somebody decided now is the time to put the bent grass greens, tees, fairways in place. The cost for this is $50,000, 1958, it's a large sum. And it's done by a gentleman named John Hanley. John Hanley works for the forestry department. He's not even a golfer, or a golf course, but he does a great job. 1962, the dues are increased. Now it's $150 to join and $20 a month. The club continues to struggle because of the water situation. The new water source they found in 1957 goes bankrupt in 67. So now they're water strapped once again. The proposal was made to raise the dues by $2 a month in 1968. Half the members resigned. So December 1969, with 90 members remaining, Hacienda Country Club closes for good. Or does it? Dr. Bourne, very famous name in Prescott, he's the son-in-law of Harvey Corey. He pays some high school kids to keep the greens green, and he uses it as a personal course for 3 years. He eventually has to go on to Antelope Hills. And that's where he plays the rest of his golf. A couple items after the closure, just I'm not going to go into what happened with this course, but just a couple of things that happened down there. In the 1980s, several developers came up with plans for the old course. I have an example on this big board here, and most of them had the course being either a 9-hole course or an 18-hole par 3 course, with hundreds of condos, small condos, 800, 900 feet around the course. It would look like some of those places in the older part of Palm Springs, which would have been just terrible for the scenery and the views that we have down there. So thank God that didn't happen. In 1989, Arnold Palmer sends his design team up here. Says, go look, see if there's a golf course up there. Designs come up here, they survey around, they go back to Florida, they say, Arnie, we don't see a golf course. Mainly because of all the rock outcroppings. Weisskopf, when he did it, he moved a lot of rocks here. There's a lot of dynamite going on there for a long time, just so you know. In 2001, the original clubhouse is destroyed. Now, I have to say something, because when I mention this to people, everybody, oh, those damn Desert Troon people. Desert Troon didn't do that. I talked to people at Desert Troon, and they told me they really wanted to keep that there and use it as a member location along with the picnic area. So they didn't have any intention, but this group called Convest Investments, they bought Parcel F. They went in the middle of the night and tore down the clubhouse. So we don't have it. Terribly sad.
Did they buy it from Troon?
That's the big question I'm trying to find out.
I know.
Because Parcel F, it belonged to Troon. I don't know how they got it. That's why I need another year to finish this project. In 2002, a group of 7 Prescott citizens pool their money. They buy all the cottages. They do that because they don't want the same fate to come to the cottages that happened to the clubhouse. So in conclusion, I just wanted to thank some of the resources I went to. I went to the USGA, the PGA of America, Royal Nation St. Louis, or St. Andrews. They are very helpful. American Society of Golf Course Architects, the PGA of Australia, which, interesting enough, is where I found all the information on Jock McLaren, our designer. The Prescott Library was helpful. Daily Courier, talked to them. Our historian at the Prescott City Hall, Cat Moody, very helpful. John Gunby, who you probably all know and read in the paper, I talked to him. And then I did hundreds of interviews with different Prescott citizens. The only place that I had to go to, and it was painful, and there were no help, and I can't say anything but horrible things about them, is the Charlotte Hall Archive. The most difficult people you could ever work with. I'm sorry to say, the museums, don't get me wrong, the museum's great, but the archive people, they don't believe in research. When I go in there, they wouldn't let me bring anything in. I had all these binders, they wouldn't let me, so they were just horrible to work with. So that's all I have. We do have one final thing. It's a short video. It's only going to be, I think it's 10 or 11 minutes.